So before any presentation that we do, I like to remind people, especially non-native people, that what we're doing is not a show. This is a demonstration of our culture and who we are as human beings, as Native American people to the core. And there are aspects of what we do that have been transformed into more of social dancing, social styles to be able to be presented to the public. But what we're going to be presenting is sort of a powwow style of performance, where we're going to be going through the ropes of how a powwow would be performed. So what we're going to be doing first is going to be presenting our grand entry. And in our grand entry, starts all the way back from the beginning times of even pre-colonization. In our longhouses, we would have what we call our warrior society dances. And those are people who are good hunters, people who were good on the battlefield and have been through battles or wars or things like that. Basically, our veterans of our communities. So this grand entry started with that style, where our men would come into the arena and so we're going to ask our man traditional dancer to lead our people in for our grand entry, because our male dancers were the first to come into the arena, followed by our women, because it was our men who were the protectors. And even though we did have women warriors and women protectors, it was the male duty to be able to protect our families and protect our communities. So this grand entry, again, is basically a parade of all of the dances that are represented during this performance. This drum here is what we call the big drum. And we call it the big drum because obviously it's pretty big. And this drum came to us around 200 or so years ago, in the time when the U.S. cavalries were making their way out west, and they were slaughtering women and children and elders in our villages. And there was a woman by the name of Omamikwe that she ran into a pond and she hid there from the cavalries for 4 days and for 4 nights. And inadvertently she fasted and she became spiritual and sacred. And the Creator asked her to come out of the water. And at first she was very afraid. But what had happened is that the U.S. cavalry told the warriors that they were going to go battle somewhere else. And when our warriors showed up to where the battlefield was, the cavalry had already wiped out our village. So the Creator gave Omamikwe this beautiful gift, because she said this gift will bring strength back to your men. Because when they come back to the village, they will see all of their children, their wives, their aunties, their moms, their elders, their grandmas, their grandpas, all lying dead. They're going to need something to give them strength. And it was this drum that gave our men strength. So when you see men sitting around this drum, it's because it was a gift to a woman to give to our men. So our men carry this in honor to uplift the people, and it's a very sacred item. We say that it is the heartbeat of our people because it sounds the Creator's voice within it, the same voice that beats inside every single one of us. So when we sing this, when we use this drum and we sing with it, we are invoking the spirit of pride and strength. And with our warriors coming into the arena, we are presenting our warriors to the people, the ones who stand up for us. So now we're going to have our grand entry. So in our bigger powwows, if you can imagine hundreds, if not thousands, of dancers coming together in celebration of who we are as a people. So essentially that is where powwows come from. Now powwow is a very interesting word because it is a traditional word of this, what we call the ancient Eastern language here. And the powwow is basically a medicine person, someone who is like myself, who is able to teach the songs, the dances, the meanings behind everything that we do, so that everybody is educated in what needs to be done. Because everything that we do as human beings, we say as spiritual beings in physical form. Everything that we do has a connection to the earth and a connection to the spirit. And when we dance and when we sing, it is because we are joyful of life. We are joyful of being able to be alive on this earth, to be able to dance and put our feet and our moccasins upon our mother, the earth. And it's really a remarkable thing that we are still here as Indian people. And it just goes to show the power of the Native American people in that through all the things that have happened to us throughout our history, we are still here, we're still able to sing, still be able to dance, and hold on to what little of our language that we have left. We have cultural bearers and young people who grow up to be able to know our teachings. This is how we teach our young generations. We take them on presentations like this. We take them all across the country to powwows. And it's said that we even dance inside of our mother's womb before we even come to this earth. We say that when we hear our first songs, it's because our moms dance, and we can hear the drum from within our mom. So I'm going to represent and ask our first style of dance, which is the women's blanket dance, to come out. And this is a very special dance to us as Native American people. And you can see her son is here. We take our children into the arena to be able to gain that pride of who they are and where they come from. We dance alongside our mothers because we are a matriarchal society. It wasn't until colonization that our governments as Native American people became patriarchal, because it wasn't the system that the colonizers were used to. They weren't used to our women coming to the table and speaking their opinion, and they only wanted to talk to men. But it was the men who asked permission of our women to be able to do anything in life, because they're the ones that gave us life. And this dance represents the cycle of life. And it is directly tied to this drum. This drum represents the cycle of life. And because it is a circle, whenever this drum is present, every race, every nationality is considered equal to each other. No matter who we are, male, female, and everything in between, when this drum is present, we are all equal because it is the voice of the Creator. So this drum represents, this dance represents the cycle of life. It's said that when a woman is carrying her blanket or her shawl, she is considered completely dressed. She carries her blanket as a symbol of strength. We say that she dances gently upon the earth because our women respect their mother, the earth. They are one and the same because we all come from her. When she dances, watch how she uses her blanket. She dances gracefully, and she tells her story with her blanket. She'll start with the blanket around her shoulders, symbolizing that very beginning of life. And in the end of the song, she'll drop that blanket upon the floor, representing that ending time in this cycle of life. This is the women's blanket dance. Let's hear it for Liam. So it's so I do want to show you a really great contrast of our oldest style of dance versus our newest style of dance. So the women's blanket dance, if you can, you know that how a woman's properly dressed with a skirt, a shirt, and her blanket. So too, our newest style of dance, what we call the women's fancy dance. They too carry their shawls and their skirt. But what you can see is that the outfits are upgraded, and there's a really wonderful story behind this. There was a man by the name of Buffalo Bill or Wild Bill, and he would tour the country in big tops, and he would have cowboys and Indians reenacting battles. Even though they weren't really battles, they were massacres, and we should always remember that. When a people are fighting for their territory to be able to live as human beings, it's not a battle, it's a massacre. It's an intention to be able to deliberately wipe out people. So, in these big tops, they would literally have Indians on horses, the stereotypical way with war bonnets and things like that, and hooping and hollering and shooting bow and arrows at cowboys who are also on horses with blanks in their guns, and going back and forth and just going around and making a show and a spectacle. And they would have our drummers come out and our dancers come out. So what happened is that Buffalo Bill, he said, we want to sell more tickets, and some of your older style of dances are a little boring to the audience. Can we spice it up a little bit? Can we put on brighter colors? Can you ask your singers to sing a little faster? And that's exactly what we did. And because it's historically accurate, that's exactly why that this dance became a traditional style of dance. So the women's fancy dance came out of a time when our people were expected to be more presentable in a contest and a competition. But today it's become a very exciting style of dance in our powwow arenas. Hundreds of these dancers together can be quite a sight. And it's very exciting, and they they compete for thousands of dollars at a time sometimes. And this is our women's fancy dance.
Yeah, go wide. I want you to be the more natural. Remember, you can do it from the camera. Pay attention to me.
So what we're gonna do is have our second to oldest style of dance, which is our men's Eastern War. And I'm gonna call on Shane Weeks, who is one of our community historical keepers and up and coming, all around really good guy. So here's Shane.
Ako ay nagtampi Bijaki ni Bod and Dasuis Bijaki and Dodam. A Shinnecock Nwachi Madewan Matawak ni Nu. Hello, my friends and family. My name is Standing Buffalo. I'm of the Buffalo clan, and I'm a Madewan Matawak man from Shinnecock. My given name is Shane Weeks, but Bijaki ni Bod is who I am. And I thank Duck Creek Farm for having all of us here today. And I've been asked to give a little history, a little background of Shinnecock and the indigenous people of Long Island. And for those who don't know, our people have been living here on Long Island for about 13,000 years. And that's just because that's when Long Island was created, at the end of the last ice age. And, despite what mainstream history says, our stories say that our people have been here in North America for at least 60,000 years, at least. And so mainstream society every now and then comes out with an earlier and earlier date. So we're just waiting for them to get to 60,000. We'll be like, oh, okay, you guys are getting there, So with that, our people have stories of before the Ice Age here in North America. We have stories of how the Ice Age came to be and how the Ice Age left, receded. So our creation stories tell us a whole lot. Our people on Long Island, for those who may have heard of the 13 tribes of Long Island, I call that a myth. Most of us call that a myth of the 13 tribes. Because our people, we did not see each other as different nations, as it's thought of today, as it was Canada, United States, Mexico. We were more like different towns of the same country, all the same people. And you can see that in the leadership and the kinship of all of the tribes. The sachem of Montauk during most of the time of contact was named Wyandanch. And his nieces, nephews, daughters, sons were the sachems and sunksquas of most of the tribes of Long Island. His aunts and uncles were the leadership of Connecticut tribes, Rhode Island tribes, Massachusetts tribes. And so you can really see the kinship in that way. We didn't look at each other as different nations. And the only distinction that we had amongst each other was our clans. That was our family clans, our distinction. I'm Buffalo clan, Gnu is Catfish clan, Wayne is Wolf clan, and so that would be the distinction of who we are as a people. As colonization went on, it's important to note that the reason those distinctions were put in place, those lines on a map, as I call them, were there so that our lands could be easily bought separately, as opposed to going through the whole entire consensus of a tribe. And so that's how that came to be. Our language, a lot of us don't speak our language fluently. There are no completely fluent speakers of Shinnecock today. But luckily, or ironically, the first Bible that was ever translated into any Algonquin language was translated into Shinnecock. And it was through a reverend named John Eliot in Massachusetts, who, through a captive of the Pequot Wars, a guy named Cocono, who was Montaukett and Shinnecock, translated the entire Bible into our dialect of Algonquin. And so today, that's how we're able to reconstruct our language. And we're able to pronounce it by looking at the other tribes that have a very similar dialect. Many of the words are the same throughout all Algonquin-speaking nations, peoples, but each dialect is very different. And our people could understand each dialect. It wasn't such a foreign language that we wouldn't be able to speak to each other in the different dialects. It's not uncommon that our people could have spoken 10, 12 dialects and understood everybody. Also, a lot of mainstream history talks about how small the world was back then, how it would have been really hard for us to communicate with somebody in Wisconsin or in the St. Lawrence River or something like that. And that also was not the case. Our people were very fast runners. There are accounts of our people running all the way to Brooklyn in one day, and being able to communicate like that. We also had canoes that could hold up to almost 100 people, and that also is a looked over fact of how seafaring our people were. And I always say that and think about how big the trees must have been back then to make a canoe that size. And so our people were very worldly, I guess you can say, and we have stories of traveling all the way out to Wisconsin or all the way up to the mouth of the St. Lawrence River and beyond. I met a person through a presentation in the mouth of the St. Lawrence. She's from a tribe, a reservation on the northern side of the mouth of the St. Lawrence River, a little bit past where the road ends, as I say, as far as you can drive on an actual road. And we were speaking about language. She had made a film called Shipu. And I was like, oh, wow, that's our word for river as well, because that was what the movie was about. And we started going down our dictionary, our index of words, and realized that we spoke the exact same dialect. And so I gave her my dictionary, and she looked through the entire dictionary and said, yeah, this is our dialect. And they speak a closer language than any of the other dialects here in the New England area. So just that connection, as far away as they are, to speak that same exact dialect is pretty amazing, And so in East Hampton were the Montaukett people. They were the people who were responsible for taking care of the bounds of East Hampton before it was East Hampton. That's very important that our people, we did not traditionally understand what land ownership was. There was no concept that somebody could own a parcel of land. It was all here for everybody to use, and it was our responsibility to take care of the land. It was our responsibility to take care of the people on the land and the animals and the trees, all of the creation, everything. And so when we say, these are the bounds of a certain nation, a certain community, we're just saying that they were the ones responsible for what was going on in that area. And the sachems, which is our word for a man chief, a male chief, and our sunksquas, which is our word for woman chief, were the ones responsible for taking care of that. They had that duty, though they were not the top of the pyramid in terms of governing. It was the Grandmother's Council that was the highest part of our government system. And I think I also want to speak on the word squaw. That is our word for woman. And as many of you may have seen coming in, we are on Squaw Road or Lane or having one of those, Squaw Road. And so, and all across the United States, that word has turned into a derogatory term. And a lot of the, especially the tribes out west, see that as a derogatory term, that you should not call somebody a squaw. It is degrading for many women. But for us, squaw is our word for woman. That is our language that we speak. And what it refers to is a very important and sacred teaching that the woman carries. And squaw comes from the word squant, that is the word for doorway. And it talks about the doorway into this life, into this realm that a woman carries. And it's a very sacred word and a very sacred meaning. And when you say that, you understand the respect that you're to give a woman in that sense. And so for us, it was never a derogatory term. But as most of our sacred terminologies, most of our sacred places were turned into negative connotations, I guess you could say, by the settlers, that came to be. that it became a derogatory word as settlement moved out west. And so, there are a lot of other words that you may not know that you're speaking our language, our dialect. As Gnu said, powwow is one of those words. Paul Wall is really how you say it, and it's the leader of ceremonies. Or moccasin. Moccasin is also in our language, in our dialect. What's another? Moose. Moose is also another word that's in our language and in our dialect. There are other fish that are still called by our language. Menhaden, tautog for blackfish. Menhaden is bunker. And there are other odd words that are still used. Sipus for an inlet are still used. And so our history is almost everywhere you look out here on Long Island. A lot of the place names, if you don't recognize it as an English word, it is probably in our language. And our language talks about the teachings or the functions of a certain place. I'm trying to think of like Shinnecock, for example. Shinnecock means the place of stone, or some have interpreted as the stony shores. And it comes from the words asin aki, which means stone place. And aki is our word for mother, or aki is our word for Mother Earth, I should say. And it comes from our word for mother, okas. So just as that word squaw makes you think about that respect that you give to a woman, same with the earth. When you say the word aki, you're thinking about that is our mother, and that you should give it the same respect as you would your physical mother, your blood mother, And we say that because we are made up of everything in the earth, We have the water, we have the air, some say we have the fire, and all the minerals that are in this earth is what we carry inside of us. And, also I was asked to speak about my book that I just recently published, called Good Neighbors, Shinnecock History from a Shinnecock Perspective. And the title of that book, Good Neighbors, comes from a phrase that I heard growing up as a Shinnecock person. And our elders would say, we have to be good neighbors to the people of the Hamptons, or anybody who wasn't Shinnecock, I guess you could say, or Indigenous. Because if we don't, they'll take our land. If we don't, they'll destroy our culture, And that was something that was very real. Up until very recently, it's gone down, where, for those who may not know of, like, residential schools, where children were taken from Indigenous communities and forced into these schools and were reprimanded for speaking our language or for practicing our culture. Here on Long Island, our culture, language, songs, everything that you're seeing here was forbidden as early as the late 1600s here in this part of the world. And it was through what was called the Great Awakening of the early 1700s that was a sort of forced assimilation away from our culture. And a lot of people suffered in those residential schools, which took the concept of the Great Awakening and placed them into institutions. And they were very heavily used in the late 1800s, all the way up here. The last Shinnecock person, I think, was in the 1960s. The last residential school in Canada was 1994. Very, very recent. And it wasn't until what's known as the American Indian Movement, AIM, that our people were allowed to speak our language again. That was in the late 1970s, maybe 1978, is when it really took hold. 72, but I think it was later than that that it really took hold on a government nationwide standing, and our people started to freely be who we are as Indigenous people of this part of the world. And so I like to say that I am first generation Shinnecock, of being born into a free world where we can be who we are freely as indigenous people of this part of the world. You know, my parents were not. You know, they were born before the 1970s. And so this book talks about a history from our perspective. Because of that oppression that our people faced, a lot of the historic accounts that you'll see of Shinnecock people and people of East End of Long Island are always third-person accounts. It's very seldom that you'll see a first-hand account, our own people telling our own story about what we are doing and who we are as a people. And so it felt important to me to share that history as a foundation, a building block for future generations of Shinnecock people, as well as for everybody else, the rest of the world. And so I do have copies of my book here for sale. If anybody would like a copy, you can see me after our singing is done. And you know, I just felt that was very important. You know, that the next generations won't have to dig as hard as I did to find out who we are as Shinnecock people. And you know, it took a lot of digging, a lot of searching around, asking people. Even our elders were reluctant to share because of that fear of what happened to them, what happened to us. You know, so it takes a lot of perseverance, I guess you could say, for our people to learn who we are, learn our language, learn our history, and understand it in a way that is unique to us as a people. And so I think now I'm going to dance what is known as Northern Traditional or Eastern War or Eastern Traditional. There are differences and variances in those two that I just mentioned, but they are unique to the northeastern part of the world. And in Eastern Traditional or Eastern War, we would wear something like I'm wearing here today. Very traditional would have been sans the cloth shirt, you know, and it would have been just this breastplate. And we're telling a story. In this dance, we're telling a story of a battle that we may have been on, or a hunt that we may have been on, a journey that we may have been on. And sometimes in Eastern Traditional, Northern Traditional also, they're telling the story of when the first red being was placed on this earth. And sometimes in our creation story, or part of our creation story, because our creation story is very long. I've only heard it twice, and I've only heard the short version, which is 18 hours. 2 days, 18 hours a day. The long version, from what I understand, takes days. I think either 4 or 7 days to tell it in its entirety. And it starts before the Big Bang. And it goes, there's different parts of it, 7 parts to it. And then it goes to when the first red being is placed on the earth. And our creation story acknowledges 4 different peoples that were lowered on the earth and went into different directions. And our story is just about the red being. And when that red being was being lowered to the earth, he looked down and he saw how beautiful the Mother Earth was, how beautiful her skirt was, and the blanket of grasses and flowers and trees that were covering her. And he was so scared to land on the earth and kill anything, to crush any of the grasses or the flowers. And so he ever so gently tiptoed, put his toes down and spread his toes and landed as softly as he could on the earth so that he did not harm her in any way. And sometimes you'll see that in traditional dances where the man will, you'll see him putting his foot down very slowly. And when he gets down, you'll see him caressing the earth, like just taking in the beauty of the earth. And so I'm going to do that dance now. So,
So thanks again, Shane, for all your beautiful teachings and words for our community here.
Are we good?
And so, an extension from our men's traditional dance, it said came a society, an elite group of men who were very skillful at battle. It said that the Grass Dance Society was born out of our most esteemed warriors. And this style of dance it comes from a very beautiful place where there was a young man who was, for lack of a better word, he was crippled and he wasn't able to move the way he would like to. And this young man, he always saw our powwows and the things that would happen in our men as they would come into the arena and tell their stories. And he wanted so bad to be able to do that and to be able to dance. And it said that one evening in his sleep, the spirits came to him into his dreams, and he heard very beautiful songs. And he saw the prairie grass as it blew in the wind. It went back and forth very gracefully as the wind blew, and the flowers as they stood above the tall grasses. He had this vision of being able to move that way. So when he woke up, he explained to his village this style of dance that he saw. He taught the singers the songs, and when they had an event, the people brought him out into the arena. And of course, he couldn't stand up. He just kind of plopped in the middle of the circle. And he urged the men to sing. And slowly but surely, with that song, that young man, he began to rise up taller and taller till he stood up and was able to dance. And as Shane was saying, he was able to rise his feet up and dance upon the earth the way he wanted to and desired to. And it's from then on that we had a society of men who honored that little boy in that dream because of that vision of that medicine of being able to be able to walk again, to be able to dance, to be able to tell a story. These men always paid homage to that young boy. So when you watch this man dance, watch how graceful he is. A lot of the times you'll see him do something with his right side, and with balancing motion, he'll do it with his left. He'll get low to the earth, and he'll do really cool moves in the process. This is the grass dance. So it said because of this dance, usually this dance is the very first dance before any celebration, before any ceremony would take place. If you can imagine the entire village of grass dancers that are present in whatever community, they would come out in areas just like this, and they would dance for days on end, because the sacredness of putting your feet upon the earth is regarded as an utmost spiritual thing. And it said that before any ceremony or celebration took place, these were the only people allowed to put their feet upon these ceremonial grounds. And they would dance, and with that they would bless our places. And this would welcome in all of our dancers, all of our singers, and nobody would be allowed in until they knew that the area was properly blessed and taken care of in a good way. Oh, fancy. Okay. Wanna go out there? All right. So what we have, you've seen our women's fancy shawl, but after those shows in Wild Bill, we would actually have our man dancers, and they asked our men to basically adorn themselves with bustles, brightly colored feathers, and move their feet in such a way where it would be entertaining to the crowd. So if we can have our young man come out. So this is the equal style of dance to our women's fancy dance. So this is our men's fancy dance. And this young man has come here, and he's a very good dancer, and I've seen him grow up fancy dancing. And I'm so happy that he's here. So again, in those Wild Bill times, they've asked our men to be able to really deck themselves out with feathers, to dance real hard, to dance real fast, to get the crowd going. So as this man dances, if you can cheer for him because he dances very hard and he dances for his people. Our young man had a little wardrobe malfunction. That's when you dance harder. That's how you know you're dancing hard, is when your outfit starts coming off. Yeah, so again, our dances have very unique histories, And a lot of our dances come from a very ceremonial and sacred place. As Shane was talking about earlier, during the times of removal and of reservations, not a lot of people know that there's a difference between a territory and a reservation. Like Shinnecock territory is a place that they've never been moved from. It's been their home since this island was created. And a reservation is basically a concentration camp. It was a place that the U.S. government put us, sometimes tribes who didn't quite get along. They were put together in places to be forgotten. We weren't allowed to hunt, we weren't allowed to fish, as was said before. And we relied on the government flying in rations. And a lot of the times these rations came in tin cans because they were non-perishable. Our people began to get very sick and very weak, of course, just like any other Holocaust. And there was a young woman, again, the spirits came to her in her dreams because she was fasting. Unintentionally, she was starved, and she got very sick. And this young woman had a dream, and in this dream, she felt the rain, the cleansing, pure water of our Mother the Earth falling from the sky, and she heard it. She heard it the way our rattles would sound. So this is what we call our Shishiguana Rattle. And this instrument is very, very important to us because other than our human voice, it is our second instrument in front of this drum. And the reason why it's important is because it calls to the creation of the entire universe. If you can imagine that sound when Gije Manidu, the creator, thought of all of the existence and all of the stars came to life at once, the sound that would ring through the entire universe is represented through our shaker, our rattle. And it's what this sound that this young woman heard in her dream. And she heard different styles of music that she's never heard before. And again, when she woke up, she told her aunties and her grandmas of what she saw, and they made her this dress. And when they took the tin cans from the rations and they clanged them together, it made that sound that she heard in her dream. So when you see these women carry these cones upon her dress, know that it came from a very difficult place. And it's said traditionally when these dresses were made, every cone carried tobacco in it, our very sacred tobacco. The tobacco was our gift from the Creator, and it's said to be a form of spiritual currency. With our tobacco, we are able to ask for anything spiritually from all of creation, from our drummers, from our dancers, from our medicine people. Even when we hunt our food, we give our tobacco. When we take anything from the earth, when we go berry picking or we harvest sweetgrass, we offer our tobacco because it is that respect that the Creator gave us to give. And in each and every one of these cones, those tobacco ties would be inside. And when she would dance, all of those prayers would emanate from her very soul and being out to the people. And with that sound of the universe, that sound of that cleansing rain, that medicine came from the spirit realm to be able to give strength to her people. And because of this dress, giving strength to her people, from that came our powwow times. Because powwow came a time when our people said, enough, we've had enough. We're going to sing our songs, we're going to wear our traditional clothing, we're going to dance and be proud of who we were, who we are. And we're no longer going to be murdered for speaking our language and dancing our dances. And ever since this dress was created, our Indian people have become stronger and stronger. So we can have our young lady come out. She's going to demonstrate our woman's jingle dress. Oh, two. You going to come out too? come on out. So our young women, we consider them, of course, our children, very sacred because they're very pure. They haven't gone through the horrible things that we go through as adults. And when they carry these dresses, they're carrying this way of life into the future so that our people will become stronger and stronger, which was intended by this dress. Good job, young lady. So, our jingle dress dancers, you can see that she's carrying a fan in her hand. And our very traditional style of jingle dress dance, they wouldn't wear feathers or carry feathers because, again, our way of life was literally illegal to practice, as Shane had said. And feathers were one of those things that the non-native society knew gave us strength in how it is that we performed our dances. So they became illegal to wear. So our women who carry the feathers in their hair, that was only a recent thing. The women's shawl dance, I should say, that in that time that this dance was invented, those women are still alive today. And that's how recent that style of dance is. And you can see in the short, was it 4 decades, 5 decades or so, that it's become one of our favorite styles of dances, and it's grown large in our communities. So, it's all of our dances, right? So far? Huh? So we've come to the portion in our program where we ask for audience participation.
Oh no.
So
Not
all
me.
of you are sitting down. Well, if you can. We're gonna do a very special style of dance called the round dance. And this dance comes to us from the Cree people, C-R-E-E, out of Canada. And you know, during the long winters of Canada, the Cree people had these styles of songs called round dances. And they originated with a style of beat that represented the heart. And these songs were developed by our men who were basically creating love songs for women they admired. And over time, the Cree communities began to learn these songs, and they became very sociable styles of dances. So what I would ask our young ones to do is if we can grab people from the audience who, if you'd like to come out, just raise your hand. We'll have our dancer come and get you. Guys, you'll grab somebody from the audience. Who has their hand up? Anybody want to come out?
Yeah, all y'all gotta come out.
So, again, this style of dance today in the modern era is known as what we call the friendship dance. And the reason why this is a friendship dance is because people who haven't seen each other a long time, all races, all nationalities, they would come and they would join in a circle. So if we can have everybody come in the center here and form a circle. A circle again, why it is that we call it the round dance. And again, the circle, just like this drum, is a symbol of peace. It's very simple, and that when you can go to communities who practice the round dances, they would dance hours and days on end, singing these songs, and they would dance very simply in a circle, and they would chat with their friends next to them. And it was a time to catch up with loved ones, with people you haven't seen in a long time, nieces and nephews, to all come together in harmony. And it's very simple if you just watch our dancers and just follow along and just, Okay, so if you guys want to give us a little start beat. So we'll practice and demonstrate real quick. So it's just stepping together with your left, step, 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 and that's all it is. Very simple. Very beautiful. Yep, and our dancers may change it up and switch directions, but we all start with our left. All right, so now that we've gone all across the country with our different styles of powwow dancing, we want to bring it back to home with our traditional styles of dance here on the East Coast in what we call the Stomp Dance. The Stomp Dance is a sacred style of dancing that came from our warrior men as well. If you can imagine hundreds of men who would go out into the sea in 100-foot canoes and hunt whales down. They would develop songs that would help them keep track of one another on the open ocean. Also, when they go out into the woods and go hunting, they would have songs that would help them keep track of each other. So much so that even the U.S. Army began to emulate this style of song in what we call the cadence, which is basically a call back and forth. We would have lead singers saying one part of the song, and the rest of the group would call back on the second part. And again, just like every other traditional song, it became a song where our people would come together and learn this style of dance and enjoy our time together. So if we can ask our Uncle Wayne and Josh and Shane if we can come up and... Huh? Okay, so I'd like Uncle Wayne, he wants to say a few words.
Hello, yo, how you guys doing? Everybody's good?
Yeah.
My nephew Gnu, he's one of my. I just look at him all the time. I just get choked up because he's doing it right. You know what I mean? He's a filmmaker. He's an indigenous filmmaker. He's writing movies, editing movies, been in movies, and he's kind of not really talking about that. But I want y'all to understand that he's doing some outstanding work. And my other two nephews, Josh and Shane, it's just like, I get choked up because they're just walking right. And so you guys are part of this. It's not like, it's no show, like this is just part of your life today. So, you know, even these Stomp Songs, you feel like you want to get up with us, just come join us because it's your life. These are your hours on the planet right now. Your babies are here and they're experiencing something humble. So we ain't playing about it. We're really serious about it. And remember, these outfits are regalias. They're not costumes. You can't go to Walmart and buy them or Costco or something like that. They're all handmade. But the other thing that's really important to understand is that as human beings, we're all human, right? Would y'all agree? So we're spreading, sharing this love. Everyone should always remember that. We all of us, all my relations, we pray in ceremonies, we're praying for all of us. It's not just Indian thing, like, oh, we're just praying for us. So we're all human on this planet. So what you guys experience right now is your life. So you go and tell people, I was at a native gathering, you know, that's what we did. And I just want y'all to understand that this is important for us to give you this knowledge so you can pass it on. So my nephew's gonna kick up a Stomp Song, and come on and join us. Don't be afraid.
So this style of dance is basically follow the leader. And so if you want to jump in on the tail and get behind us, you're absolutely welcome to, because we'll probably utilize this whole area.
Hey yo! Hey! Hey yo! Hey! Hey yo! Hey!
So as you can see, that style of dance can be quite fun. Oh, yeah. So also, we would like to open up the floor for any questions that anybody may have. I know we can be quite thorough with our explanations, and that's a very good thing. It means that we're doing our job to be able to remember our teachings and remember our stories, because as human beings, we're really meant to be an oral tradition people. We are a communal mind and a communal spirit. And to experience this earth and experience this realm of existence in a physical way, to walk the earth, is the only way that we truly learn. When our children were taken away from this way of life, it's a miracle that we have our children representing who we are and where we come from today. The extremities that this way of life tried to destroy us. But today we try to push forward in our relationship. We do these dances and we do these presentations because I'll let you in on a little secret. It's said through the traditional native way of life is the only way humanity will survive the future things to come. The way that Eurocentric economic society will cause us to fall and extinguish our humanity and our civilization. Salvation will come through the peace and harmony that the earthly people will guide the future. And we want to make sure that we always can do this. We want to make sure that even next year, bring more people to come, bring more people so that we can see our children, so that you can encourage our children to dance the way your ancestors didn't. We want to have your love, your appreciation, and we just want to share. We just want to share who we are and be recognized on the East End. Recognize this earth that you're sitting on, native territory. Our people are underneath you right now. Know that they're there. They're supporting you in your life as you walk our continent. We are grateful for you to be here. And we always want to make sure that we walk just like that round dance together, hand in hand, to be able to make a good life for all these little kids. All these little kids who are present. That's what our way of life is about. So, any questions? Because we have a lot of people here with a lot of knowledge. So, if anybody has any questions, even our LTV crew. So just FYI, I work at LTV, and these are my coworkers and colleagues. And I appreciate that they're here doing this really good work to help spread this knowledge. And again, even though Shane already did it, thank you to Duck Creek for allowing us to have this space and this time to be able to share with everybody.
Any questions?
Y'all make all of your own regalia.
Yep.
Yep. So again, as the human experience, even though sometimes we can purchase our things, we're always encouraged to learn how to sew, learn how to make our traditional regalias. And that's a very beautiful word, regalia. It's this isn't exactly what we would wear day to day. This is our proper attire, just the way a suit and a top hat would be, don't know much top hat anymore, but the way we would dress up as, in our suits and our nice shirts with collars and stuff like that. This is what we would wear on our special occasions for powwows and things like that. So from a young age, even Diashwa, we work for the Boys and Girls Club now. And they've allowed us to have time and space to be able to have outfit making classes, because more and more, because of the civilization around us, there's not really a lot of time to be able to, with jobs and school and things like that, less and less time is devoted to be able to make our traditional regalias, to learn songs, to learn dances. And it's allowed us that opportunity to create a space to have parents who want to make outfits for their kids. We have that space available. But in our homes, we would always encourage people, because in making our regalias, we also teach our children the respect and how much work goes into creating their outfits. Because it's not just something that, I want to outfit and I want to dance. Well, ask, be grateful for these things. Sit down with me. I'm going to show you how to sew some things yourself. I'm going to teach you how to do these things, because you're taking on a responsibility of hundreds and thousands of years of people who did the same exact thing before you. And you're taking up this responsibility to create this outfit, to be able to learn the teachings behind it, because it's not just something that we do willy-nilly. It has a meaning, it has a purpose, it has a history, and it has a strength that is going to carry you into the future if you use it properly and use it wisely. So yes, we make all of these handmade, and we say, just like anything, if we put our human intention into it, so if we have our loving mothers who make these outfits for their children, they're carrying the love of their mother in every stitch that goes into what they're wearing. You know what I mean? You're putting your hands physically on something to create that blessing and that transfer of love and spirit into whatever it is that you're creating. So again, it's just goes back to, even right now we're fighting to get artifacts back from museums, because they're meant to be carried on into the future. We're meant to have those things in our possession because they were made by hand by our ancestors, and they wanted us to use it. You know what I mean? So when you use those things into our modern day life, we carry that. We carry that special, in that special way.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Right here.
I was wondering how many people are in the Shinnecock Nation today?
A lot
And
of people.
do you have artifacts that are not in museums? How far back do they go?
So I was actually just going to speak on that.
Oh, great.
So there are almost 2,000 people enrolled in our tribe, in our nation. Only about 800 or so live there. The others live elsewhere. And then we're accompanied on Long Island by the state-recognized Untitled Nation on the Puspatuck Reservation in Mastic. So those are the two tribes that have federal and state recognition. But as sovereign nations, we also acknowledge some of the other tribes that live here, like the Montaukett, the Korchog, the Matinecock, the Setauket. So we do acknowledge that those communities still exist, even though the state and federal governments say that they do not. And one thing that I did want to mention, I'm glad you brought it up, was that I also work with the Shinnecock Nation Graves Protection Warrior Society, as well as the Neomuk Land Trust. And what we primarily focus on is preserving, protecting, and purchasing sacred lands within Long Island, specifically attributed to Shinnecock people and our sister tribes. And over the last 5 or 6 years or so, we have worked very hard to protect our burial grounds, specifically in the Shinnecock Hills, and as well as deal with repatriated remains and artifacts from museums, institutions, private collections, all of those places. And with the burials, with the remains, we've reburied almost 200 individuals' remains in the last 3 years or so. And we try and put them back in a place where they came from, as close to where they came from as possible. And sometimes it's very hard, with so much of the land developed out here. And so we worked very closely with the Peconic Land Trust and have utilized some of their lands to rebury. We also focus primarily in the Shinnecock Hills, which is, for us, was our ancient burial grounds. And that was taken from us when the railroad came through in 1859. And, as I said, when we were, back then we were not legally able to fight for it in court officially. So we had to wait almost 100 and plus something years to the 1970s after the American Indian movement to fight for it in court. And after a 30-something year battle, they told us that we waited too long and that, yes, it's stolen, but there's nothing we can do about it, essentially, because there are people living on it. And so that court case is not done. There are other avenues we can take. But one thing the Grace Protection Warrior Society and Nyamuck Land Trust try and focus on is purchasing those parcels outright. And we've been successful in working with the Southampton Town Community Preservation Fund in having them preserved that way. We've also worked very closely with Roger Waters of Pink Floyd in preserving Sugarloaf Hill, which is the highest point in the Shinnecock Hills and is our most sacred point within our traditional burial grounds of the Shinnecock Hills. And along with the Community Preservation Fund of Southampton, Peconic Land Trust, and the private donors, we were able to preserve that and hopefully have it returned back to our control. We've demolished the house. We did ground penetrating radar up there recently and determined that there are still burials up on that site. And because we thought it was all desecrated. We thought that they just flattened out the top of the hill, but they actually added soil, so it preserved a lot of those burials. And it's pretty significant what's still up there. There are also 14 remains from there that are in the Albany, New York State Museum in Albany, that we're going to return back to the top of the hill once it's safe to do so, once the demolition and everything is completed. And so one way that you can help our communities is to donate in some way, shape, or form to either the Nyamuck Land Trust directly, but because we're not a 501c3 yet, we're in the process, you can donate to the Peconic Land Trust. And they have a Shinnecock land acquisition and stewardship fund that is tax deductible. And you can say donate to that or donate to Nyamuck Land Trust operating fund through them. And so those are two ways that help us out a lot. So that's.
This is a question that I'm a jitney driver. Been doing it for a long time. I always get this question. So what do you guys eat? What's your traditional food like? I'm like, yo, first of all, I'm a Cherokee from North Carolina. I'm gonna tell you what Algonquins and Shinnecock and the real deal is. All that expensive seafood that you all purchase, like lobsters and clams and mussels and steamers, that was our trash food. We ate that all the time. That was just like, that was regular food. It wasn't like spectacular. It was just like we ate it all the time. So remember that. Like seafood shop in Wayne Scott, probably the best idea to walk in and smell the ocean. So my Shinnecock brothers and sisters, I've been blessed. They have the best shellfish known to mankind. I've eaten shellfish everywhere in the world. And right there in the Shinnecock Bay, and this gentleman right here, put your hand up. My nephew right here, he's been a hunter-gatherer ever since he was like 5. He hunts deer, cleans deer, butchers the deer, cooks the deer. Same thing, he's been on ocean, on big fishing vessels. Like, he's the man. This guy, if you really want to really eat traditional native food, come see Shane. But remember, the Thanksgivings, turkey was not the entourage. It was amazing lobsters and amazing fish and then samp and succotash, and he's the guy. This guy right here, I'm trying to tell you. He don't brag about it, but I'm telling you, if you're really hungry and we have no food, no money, call Shane. and he'll have dinner prepared. So anyway, that's something that they always ask in the Jingle. What kind of food y'all eat? I'm like, native food, like anything's around that was always available. So remember, the shellfish is really significant on Long Island, and especially Shinnecock. We have the best oysters on the planet. Right, Osh? Yeah, say Oshman. Best oysters, right?
Oh, yeah.
There you go, good. Oh, wait.
One more thing about good neighbors.
So if anybody is interested in learning more about Shinnecock history, I do have my book here for sale. Good Neighbors, A Shinnecock History from a Shinnecock Perspective. So if you're interested, you can see me after. Thank you.
Like a Good Neighbor by his book. So with that, we will conclude our sharing with you. And again, I just wanted to thank all of our dancers and our singers that come out. It takes a lot for our people to come together. And a lot of the times, we're treated like we're just, Cirque du Soleil or some band that you hire. And there's not a lot of respect for how much goes into, for lack of a better word, performing for everybody. It takes a lot for getting our kids together, pulling our people out of work, you know what I mean? And we do it for the love of who we are, we do it for the love of sharing. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much for coming and being here. When we're back next year, please bring more people, and we'll have a lot more fun then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah!
And feel free to talk to anybody individually.